We have an existential threat that runs into political realities, and it's basically going to destroy our U.S. democracy. The devastation from this weekend's tornadoes is a stark reminder of the future that awaits humans on this planet when weird weather is increasingly unpredictable and severe. The current President Joe Biden, whose climate change initiatives and his social spending package are facing an uncertain future in the Senate, and it has more immediate political problems, including the high gas prices and inflation that he has nothing to do with, are eating into his political power. The existential threat of our lifetime is running again into the political realities of our democracy. The clock is ticking to address climate change, and it has been broadcast on repeat with increasing intensity. But as those alarm bells ring, so do warnings about continued threats to the Republic nearly a year after rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol, as well as threats to American pocketbooks in the thick of the holiday season. And thanks to the ongoing pandemic that continues to disrupt so much of the global system and threaten public health, where every day is a dizzying onslaught of headlines drowning out the perpetual threat of climate change until a severe weather event like this weekend resurfaces that discussion. This is going to be the new normal, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell said. And talking about the extreme weather in general, the effects that we're seeing from climate change and the crisis of our generation. To be clear, we don't know that climate change was responsible for the tornadoes, but research on the role that climate change is playing in the formation and intensity of tornadoes is not as robust as for other types of extreme weather like droughts, floods, and even hurricanes. But extreme weather is here to stay. It goes beyond the odd fact that snow had fallen in Hawaii this month, but little in Denver. Floods and wildfires are getting worse. The devastation in Kentucky suggests tornadoes could be in the mix. Now, the solution for the world is cutting down on carbon emissions. Biden's solution for this, although he has little control over it, includes lowering the gas prices. It is an irony of cross currents when the president's political fortunes rest on enabling something shown to affect the climate. The coronavirus pandemic, the headline that has consumed Americans for much of the past 2 years, shows just how difficult it is for government to compel behaviors that that could alleviate that threat. And now, among the fierce disagreement over vaccine mandates, Americans are going to have to learn to live with the coronavirus, in part because more people won't get vaccinated on their own. Similarly, Americans may have to learn to live with a more unpredictable and dangerous climate because the wonky federal system is making it extremely difficult to deal with it in a big way. Now, Biden wants the Environmental Protection Agency to weigh in on the specifics of the climate and tornadoes. All that I know is that the intensity of the weather across the board has some impact as a consequence of the warning of the planet and the climate change, Biden said at the White House Saturday. The specific impact on these specific norms, I can't say at this particular time. I'm going to be asking the EPA and others to take a look into this. As the climate team notes, the short and small scale of tornadoes, along with an extremely spotty and unreliable historical record for them, it makes relationships too long term. Human-caused climate change very difficult to pinpoint. But Criswell said tornadoes do occur in December, but what's different in Kentucky is how the tornadoes behaved. At this particular magnitude, I don't think we've ever seen one this late in the year, she said, but it's also historic. Even because of the severity and the amount of time that these tornadoes spent on the ground is unprecedented. Many elements of Biden's climate agenda are in the Build Back Better, which faces uncertainty on Capitol Hill, but it would invest billions in pushing the use of more clean and renewable energy to meet Biden's goal of a carbon pollution-free power sector by 2035. It would spend billions more to subsidize Americans buying electric cars and bikes. The climate portions that are pared back to satisfy Democratic Senator Joe Manchin are basically, they call him Democrat, but he's actually a Republican, of West Virginia, are wrapped in with unrelated social safety net elements he doesn't yet support. Now, the Democrats put all their proposals, climate and otherwise, into one single bill to make an end run around filibustering the Republicans and exploit budget rules. Now, it's a risky strategy that could leave the country without a new climate strategy if the closet Republican Manchin, who represents a state steeped in history as a coal producer, doesn't come on board. But in a 50-50 Senate, where Vice President Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker, breaks tie, Democrats don't have any votes to spare. the West Virginia senator has an enormous clout. Now, while working with that narrow margin, Biden must fight the perception that his efforts to remake the social safety net are helping drive up costs, and there are signs that supply chain kinks could be easing, and gas prices have already begun to fall. But those realities have not yet entered the public consciousness. Now, the government report that tracks consumer prices registered a 39-year high for inflation when data for November was released on Friday. More than two-thirds of Americans, 69% that is, disagree of Biden's handling of inflation, and 50% disapprove of his handling of the economic recovery. The perceived squeeze on Americans' pocketbooks already overshadows the climate, but there's another distraction in the blinking red threat to American democracy that's posed by former squatter Donald Trump and his sycophants. The latest revelation is Mark Meadows. Trump's former chief of staff said in an email that the National Guard will be on hand to protect the pro-Trump sycophants in the lead-up to the Capitol insurrection, according to a new contempt report that was released Sunday night by the House Select Committee investigating January 6. Now the resolution comes after the panel informed Meadows last week that they had no choice but to advance the criminal contempt proceedings against him, given that he had decided to no longer cooperate. The House earlier pursued a similar effort against Trump's informal advisor, Steve Bannon. His trial will get underway this summer, putting the high-profile case front and center as the 2022 midterm campaign is in full swing. After earlier agreeing to cooperate with the committee, Meadows has clammed up, and he has sued House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the committee members, asking the federal court to block enforcement of the subpoena that the committee issued him, as well as the subpoena it issued to Verizon for his phone records. The former North Carolina congressman had already handed over 6,000 pages of documents, including information from his personal email account and personal cell phone, to the committee. This also included a PowerPoint document detailing ways to undermine the account of the 2020 election. A lawyer for Meadows said that the former White House chief of staff was the recipient of the 38-page document, but did nothing with it, according to the New York Times on Friday. And it has not been independently verified what the content of the PowerPoint was. Democrats want to cram their massive climate change and safety net bill into law using budget rules. Now, Republicans did the same to pass massive tax cuts in 2017 that benefited the rich. To control budget estimates, they pushed proposals on a temporary basis and then assume Americans won't want to give up that perk. Republicans did that with their tax cuts for individuals, which are technically set to expire in 2025, but they're expected to be extended for some people. Democrats are following suit with their social spending bill. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has said it would cost more than $3 trillion over 10 years if the Democrats were enacted permanently, if the programs were enacted permanently. And Democrats say that they will offset the programs in the future. Now, wherever the evolving form of American government throws up roadblocks, politicians will ultimately find ways around it. But whether it's fast enough to address climate change is a question, and whose time has come. So basically, if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you know notified when the new video comes out, and thanks for listening.